Will we get any better results from Palm Springs?
Oh, I should like to hope we might. Palm Springs, for all the remakes and reimagining we seem to be disproportionately subjected to these days, it is perhaps surprising that relatively few high-profile movies have revisited the time loop concept of Groundhog Day. I would suggest that's because everyone seems to think Groundhog Day can't be improved on, but that didn't seem to matter for RoboCop, so let's not pretend. I've been fond of Andy Samberg's brand of buffoonery for some time now, certainly since at least Hot Rod, which I still find to be one of the most alarmingly underrated comedies of modern times, and so the emergence of Palm Springs on Hulu recently following a record Sundance bidding war seems something to look forward to. The movie centres on Niles, a 30-something guy whose carefree attitude at the wedding of a friend turns out to be founded in his existential incarceration in a time loop that sees him living the same day over and over in perpetuity. Carrying his experience through to each new predictable awakening, Niles has had time to reflect on a lot of things, and though it's never explicitly stated for how long he's been trapped, the inference is that it may well be decades. Initially, Niles' only looping companion is the shadowy psychopathic figure of Roy, J.K. Simmons, who we are introduced to in full camo gear as he shoots hunting arrows at Niles from a compound bow, an act that precipitates the introduction of wedding guest Sarah, Kristen Milioti, to the loop. Initially reluctant to accept her new fate, Sarah grudgingly beds down into the idea that this state of affairs may actually afford some opportunities, and together she and Niles engage in various tomfooleries, occasionally interrupted by the murderous Roy. There is perhaps inevitably some romantic growth between the leads, though at a certain point after falling out they appear to part ways, with Sarah dedicating herself to finding a way out of their shared predicament. I've read various interpretations of Palm Springs as an allegory for the commitment necessary to maintain a marriage, though on the verge of my own 10-year anniversary I would like to suggest that another valid means towards achieving this is to pair oneself with a partner who's infinitely more patient, understanding and emotionally complete. In any event, I'm not sure I feel the need to burden Palm Springs with that degree of intellectual insight, as I found it to be the antithesis of Eurovision. It's a comedy which made me laugh frequently, has heart, and also the good grace to get its business over and done with inside of 90 minutes. I do recommend.
Yes, I enjoyed Palm Springs. I laughed quite a bit. I like Andy Samberg a lot, but I guess this is another film whose popularity baffles me. And maybe just right now, this time, people just want something that's like kind of warm and you can laugh at. But
yeah. I was surprised at the record bidding war thing.
Yeah. It's so milquetoast, though. It really is so milquetoast. It's got no edge to it at all. And I'm maybe that's good because I don't think Andy Samberg can do edge, much as I like him. He doesn't have a lot of range, but it hints at some kind of interesting, darker stuff. Like he's saying that. At one point, Andy Samberg saying he can't remember his job.
Yes,
like he won't answer any questions about how long he's been there. And she never even asks him. Sarah never even asks him how he got in there in the first place, because it's not clear. And like, so there's lots of hints there about something dark or trouble in his past, and it's like, oh no, we never ever mention it. And then by the end, apparently all of that stuff's forgotten anyway. So it's kind of frustrating that because there could be something there. I mean, I enjoyed my time with it, but it's so forgettable. I don't ever watch it again.
Oh, I'm never going to feel the need to go back and watch it. No.
I mean, and it so very much is Groundhog Day, but considerably less good. Although on the upside, Kristen Milioti, she's great.
Yeah.
Isn't Andy McDowell? One thing I've never got on with in Groundhog Day.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just quite bland, which is disappointing. It's funny and it'll lift your mood a wee bit because it's quite funny and it'll give you a laugh, but there's just nothing there. There's no substance, and I'm frustrated by that because it hints at it and doesn't go anywhere. And but also there isn't enough J.K. Simmons because nothing has enough J.K. Simmons.
One of the few in this episode I did watch, and I don't really have anything particularly to add to it. So yes, I fully agree. It's quite a good comedy. I laughed quite a bit. I will never think of it again. It's entirely worth watching and worth plugging onto your streaming service of choice when it appears and whatever it does. But other than some ephemeral bit to pass 90 minutes in a very enjoyable way, which is no mean feat in and of itself. I don't particularly want to diminish that. Yes, solid B+ fare, absolutely recommended. But you will not be thinking about this next week, let alone next year. So yeah, good, but not particularly exciting to talk about.
Yeah.
Can I just before we move on, just how well you can't really say it's Rotten Tomatoes, it's nonsense, but just when they're like coming up with their ideas for like a kind of overarching idea of the film, the Rotten Tomatoes says here, critics' consensus: strong performance, assured direction, and a refreshingly original concept. What? This is Groundhog Day.
Yes.
What?
Yes, it is, isn't it? Yeah.
I mean, and not even like a little bit Groundhog Day. It's Groundhog Day.
Yeah, it is just Groundhog Day.
I mean,
less good, unless not doing a suicide montage or anything. It doesn't quite have the edge in any way at all.
I'll sometimes let critics a pass when they've not gone back to the 1970s or something, where like very similar films have been around, and they said, "Oh, what a new original take on a film!" But come on, Groundhog Day. Yes.
Well, it's a film whose entire concept has become part of the modern vocabulary.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
That people in everyday speech will say, "Oh, it feels like Groundhog Day."
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's. I'm not accepting that. That's terrible.
Do you know, the other thing I wish I'd mentioned as well, Drew, when you were talking about the darkness that the film did not address with Palm Springs, was quite how, what's the word I'm looking for? Quite how brutal Roy's treatment of Niles is at parts. Like, we see him literally like torture murdering him essentially and stuff. That's pretty dark. And Niles...
that's dark stuff, and
it's never really addressed, actually.
He addresses it a wee bit in it, like he realised what he was doing to him after he had his legs pinned by the police car, but that's it. Very much just paying lip service to it. Like, you could have a real black comedy there, and it doesn't really.